Hey, welcome to Binge Bar. The NHL has 31 teams at the time of us making this video. Seattle will be joining the pack in not too long, and they still don't have a name. But before they do, we thought we'd explain where the other teams got their name from. Let's begin with a team who's been pretty hot lately, the New York Rangers. In 1925, the New York Americans joined the National Hockey League and played their home games at the old Madison Square Garden. Tex Rickard, who built and owned the arena, decided he wanted his own NHL team, which he was awarded in 1926. Rickard's team was immediately dubbed Texas Rangers, as pun referring to the paramilitary force founded in Texas during the 1830s. The Americans folded in 1942 while Texas Rangers remained. Of course, this was later shortened to the Rangers for obvious reasons. Given that New Jersey has never been known for its mountains, the team needed a new nickname after the Colorado Rockies relocated to the Garden State in 1982. A statewide newspaper contest to determine the new nickname took place. Finalists included Americans, Blades, Coastals, Colonials, Gulls, Jaguars, Meadowlanders, and believe it or not, Meadowlarks. Not the greatest naming committee in Jersey at the time, I guess. One stood out though. Some fans even objected to the winning selection on religious grounds. One even threatened the life of a reporter who was covering the search at the time. But Jersey landed on Devils. The Devil has entirely non-religious folk history in New Jersey. According to a legend, a harmless creature known as the Leeds Devil, or the New Jersey Devil, roamed the Pine Barrens in the southern part of the state from 1887 until 1938. Regardless, a way better name than the Jersey Meadowlarks would have been. Can't stress enough how much people crave in-state rivalries. It's a money market that will always do well. It's impossible to fail. And what better city and state to have one in other than the greatest in the entire world? The New York Rangers were forced to make room in New York in the early 1970s, but the name was actually created 10 years prior, when New York's expansion Major League Baseball franchise held a name team contest in 1961. Islanders finished third behind the Mets and Empires. 11 years later, Islanders was selected as the nickname for New York's new hockey team, which plays its home games on, you guessed it, Long Island. Moving on to another in-state rival. The Philadelphia Flyers actually have no meaning whatsoever to their name at all. Ed Snyder, then vice president of the Philadelphia Eagles, brought hockey back to the city in 1966, and Snyder's sister, Phyllis, reportedly suggested the name Flyers, which sounds good when paired with Philadelphia. That's all it is. Their rivals, of course, being Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh sponsored a Name the Team contest, but Carol McGregor, no relation to Conor McGregor, sadly, the wife of one of the franchise's part owners, Jack McGregor, was the one responsible for the nickname, stating it should go with the word Pittsburgh, so it should start with a P. Originally, the team was a minor league team called the Hornets, but Pittsburgh Hornets didn't flow well, and now that it wasn't a minor team, they needed an upgrade. The nickname for the Civic Center where they played at the time was the Big Igloo, and well, igloos and penguins just go hand in hand together. The Boston Bruins. When grocery store tycoon Charles Adams brought the team to Boston, he hired former hockey great Art Ross to serve as his general manager. Adams actually decided on the colors being black, well, brown at the time, along with yellow to match the color scheme of his grocery store, while Art Ross decided on the name being Bruins, an Old English word for bears. But when Buffalo entered the league in 1970, owners wanted the nickname for their new team to be so different and unique. A name contest was held and Sabres was selected the winner by a Toronto film director, I believe. For those that don't know, a saber was a weapon carried by a leader and could be used effectively on both offense and defense. Moving on to the most successful hockey team of all time, and it is located in Montreal. How they got their name actually has some history to it. In 1909, John Ambrose O'Brien created the club. Ambrose wanted his team, a charter member of the National Hockey Association, to appeal to Montreal's French-Canadian population, and he hoped to drum up a rivalry with the city's established team, the Wanderers. The Canadians are often referred to as the Habs, which is an abbreviation for habitants, and that's a nod to the early settlers who were French in that region. The original Ottawa Senators, founded in 1883, won 11 Stanley Cups, and then they just dipped. When an NHL team returned to Ottawa in 1992, after nearly a 60-year hiatus, the nickname, a reference to Ottawa's status as Canada's capital city, was an obvious choice. The Toronto Maple Leafs got their name in a unique way as well. Conn Smythe purchased Toronto's hockey team in 1927, and one of his first orders of business was renaming that horribly named team. The franchise that began to play as the Arenas in 1917 changed its nickname to the St. Patrick's in 1919 to attract Toronto's Irish population. Smythe eventually decided on Maple Leafs for a couple of possible reasons. The most notable was Smythe fought in the Maple Leaf Regiment during World War I, and there was a former Toronto hockey club named the East Maple Leafs. The Winnipeg Jets formed in late 1971, and not that originally, they got their name from a team of the same name that played in Canada's Western Hockey League. The current franchise is actually the second incarnation. The first, of course, relocated to Phoenix, Arizona in 1996 and became the Phoenix Coyotes, today known as the Arizona Coyotes. But the current franchise was originally called the Atlanta Thrashers, and we have a video on the history of the Thrashers, actually. It's 5 minutes or less if you would like to check it out. After the Hartford Whalers moved to Raleigh in 1997, the new owner named his team after the devastating storms that regularly ravaged the region. And the Carolina Hurricanes, well, they were born. Had Tampa Bay been awarded a baseball team in the early 1990s, they likely would have been called the Florida Panthers, a reference to an endangered species of the same name at the time. Instead, the nickname was adopted by Florida's second NHL team. When Panthers president Bill Torrey revealed the nickname, he told reporters, "A Panther, for your information, is the quickest striking of all caps. Hopefully, that's how we will be on the ice." When Tampa finally did get awarded an NHL team, it got its inspiration from a 1990 thunderstorm, which gave then owner Phil Esposito the desire to name his team the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is also a nod to the game's fast play. And I don't think this one is any surprise or interesting story where the Washington Capitals got that iconic name from. Playing in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America, D.C. features many monuments along with, well, you guessed it, the United States Capitol building. Chicago is an original six team with a pretty interesting story behind their team name. Chicago entered the league in 1926. The owner named the team after the 86th Infantry Division in which he actually served in, the Black Hawk Division, named after Chief Black Hawk of an American Indian tribe who fought the Illinois militia in 1832. And as a side note, the Chicago Blackhawks logo also features a unique color scheme that slightly has changed over the years to show it was friendly and welcoming and not at all racist. See, Columbus got their name in a very similar way to a lot of the other names on this list. It was a name the team contest where the team named Blue Jackets was selected. But what's actually unique about this name is it serves as a deeper meaning. The name celebrates patriotism, pride, and the rich Civil War history in the state of Ohio, and more specifically, the city of Columbus. Ohio actually contributed more residents to the Union Army than any other state during the Civil War did. Their logo also features 13 stars on it, which is a direct connection to, you guessed it, the United States' original 13 colonies. After purchasing the Detroit Falcons in 1932, James Norris renamed the team after the Winged Wheelers, the nickname of the Montreal Hockey Club for once he which played for. Norris chose a winged wheel as the team's logo, a nod to Detroit's growing reputation as the heart of the automobile industry, therefore becoming the Detroit Red Wings. This one's actually really cool. Underneath the city of Nashville, saber-toothed tiger remains were discovered during an excavation in 1971. And this inspired the team's logo, which was actually unveiled months before a team name was, and it was left into the hands of the fans to come up with a name. Fans narrowed down the team name to being, of course, the Nashville Predators. St. Louis owner Sid Solomon Jr. selected the nickname Blues in 1967 after W.C. Handy's song, St. Louis Blues. Mercury and Apollo were the two other names that were considered, but they just don't ring off the tongue as nicely as St. Louis Blues do. The Flames played in Atlanta from 1972 until 1980, and their nickname was a reference to the burning of Atlanta by General William T. Sherman during the Civil War. When the team moved to Calgary, many feared the name would be changed, and the team actually kept the name, pushing onto the existence of the Calgary Flames. Edmonton, the capital of Alberta, is also the oil capital of Canada. Edmonton began play in 1972 in the World Hockey Association and retained the name Oilers when it joined the NHL in 1979. The Edmonton Oilers was a no-brainer for a team name at the time. Colorado was initially called the Rockies, but when they left for New Jersey, the name was made available and was adopted by the baseball team, the Colorado Rockies, which is a reference to the mountain ranges of Colorado. Once Quebec finally left Canada to move to Colorado, they wanted their team to be noticed this time, unlike their time in Quebec. So they wanted their name to pop. They selected the name Avalanche and surprisingly received a lot of negative feedback for choosing that name. Minnesota is the capital of hockey, in my opinion. They live and breathe hockey in that state, but somehow they lost their team, the North Stars, as they relocated to Dallas in 1993. But not too long after, the league proposed to return hockey to this hockey-loving state. Two names were selected as finalists, the Voyagers and the Wild. Voyagers were the working-class employees of fur trading companies in that region during the 1700s in Minnesota. The owners ended up choosing the Wild due to its simplicity and how it depicts the nature the state had to offer. Johnny Canuck was originally appeared as a Canadian political cartoon character in 1869. was reinvented as a comic book action hero who, well, he fought Adolf Hitler somehow, along with other villains, but he fought Adolf Hitler during World War II. Canuck is also slang for Canadian, making Vancouver's hockey team the Canadian equivalent of the New York Yankees, with a lot of less money. When the North Stars relocated to Dallas in 1993, they had no intention of ditching the Stars concept of that name. They said farewell to the North and didn't feel the need to add Lone or South to it. The Dallas Stars were a name that really just rolled off the tongue very nicely. The Los Angeles Monarchs played in the Pacific Coast Hockey League during the 1930s, and they served as inspiration for owner Jack Kent Cooke, who owned the Los Angeles Lakers and later the Washington Redskins, but to settle on the Kings as the team nickname from entries submitted in a fan contest. Well, Anaheim joined the NHL in 1993, and its team was known as the Mighty Ducks, after the wildly popular and beloved timeless Disney movie. The nickname was changed to Ducks, and the logo was changed in 2005, sadly, after Disney sold the team. That sucked. I believe there is actually a TV series now for the Mighty Ducks releasing on Disney Plus or Netflix soon too, so I'm definitely going to check that out. The Winnipeg Jets moved to Phoenix in 1996. This was widely discouraged for one key reason. Hockey does not belong in the desert. It didn't belong there in 1996, and 2020 it still doesn't belong there, but it's kind of working now. Still doesn't belong there, but the league forced it there, and their time there has kind of been super shaky. I mean, who would have saw that coming? But Austin Matthews comes from there, so that's kind of sick. But two names were in the finals, Scorpions and Coyotes. Two very present things in the hot, sandy deserts of Arizona. But Coyotes won, but it wasn't a landslide. Final two, San Jose seemed another weird market for hockey at first, but notably has done pretty damn awesome. Sharks was chosen from 23 entries in San Jose's Name the Team contest. The other finalists included Rubber Puckies, Screaming Squids, Salty Dogs, and Blades. Blades was actually the most popular entry. I know it's a shocker that Rubber Puckies didn't win, but ultimately it was rejected because of its gang implication. Again, talking about Blades. When the nickname was chosen, 7 shark species made their home in a stretch of the Pacific Ocean off the California coast called the Red Triangle. That brings us to the final team on our list, and only a couple of seasons ago, Vegas joined the Hockey League to make that 31 teams. And until Seattle joins us, they're still going to be the new kids on the block. According to owner Bill Foley, the organization wanted the powerful warrior to represent Las Vegas. They wanted their name to fit the city's strong and tremendously powerful life. Deciding between Silver Knights and Desert Knights as the team's name, but ultimately ended up coming together on the Vegas Golden Knights.